Here we have hydrogen as a seasonal storage and also an overview of the green hydrogen market in Southeast Asia, but just little glimpses towards that. And then at the end, I will drive some recommendations, what we have learned from the project that we implemented so far internationally. So the first part, as said, will focus a bit on green hydrogen as seasonal storage. So this might not be the most known application case for hydrogen, but I thought it's still worth to talk about it, especially because we have later on also an input that is more looking into the more traditional industry applications. And actually, as RLI, we had two projects there where we assessed actually the feasibility of hydrogen as seasonal storage, and are also having now an implementation project where we are very grateful for. And I will share with you some of the insights of these projects. So the first two were actually we did on behalf of the German-New Zealand Chamber of Commerce and also the German-Philippine Chamber of Commerce. I've already seen the participant list that some of the colleagues are joining the session. I'm very, very happy to have you here. And there we were actually looking for the Pacific Islands, assessing the feasibility to apply hydrogen technology within the tourism sector. So we looked at hotel and resort demands and how to electrify them and make their supply greener. And in the Philippines, we actually looked at 3 case study islands. So we looked at entire island supplies. And then the third one is actually our implementation project, which just started, and that is in Thailand. But maybe before we go into the details, a little bit of the background, because I think not all of in this digital room are very familiar with hybrid mini-grids, and we assessed this for our seasonal storage approach. So hybrid mini-grids are actually combining different technology options to actually supply communities, entire islands that are not connected to the main grid yet. So it can be either only diesel systems, which are quite popular, but now we see also a trend towards hybridizing them with PV or also wind power supply. And as soon as renewables come in, obviously we need some sort of storage. Speaking about storage, what was actually our motivation to look at green hydrogen as a storage? So as I already said, many island cases or many islands are still supplied with purely diesel systems. They are very well known and flexible in operation, but they also come with the disadvantage of being very dependent on the global oil prices, which are usually in an upwards trend. So we want to so we really want to see different options here. And also, of course, greenhouse gas emissions, pollutions, and also transporting diesel to remote areas might be a bit tricky. And then if we hybridize, as I said, with renewables, we need storage options. So very popular one is then the battery storage that is already well known and applied into a lot of hybrid mini-grids around the world. But then as green hydrogen technology is emerging, we can also see benefits of integrating the hydrogen as more a seasonal storage. The battery being more like the short-term, balancing the short-term fluctuations that are coming with the renewables. And then having hydrogen as a seasonal storage, for example, during rainy seasons and low solar penetration, or also when wind potential is quite low. So that is kind of the background and motivation why we looked at the different case studies to just get a better feeling of when is it actually feasible to integrate hydrogen as a seasonal storage. The first project, as I said, was on the Pacific Islands. So we really looked into 4 different cases on 4 different islands, here more towards the tourism sector, so only resorts, and supplying them with a combination of PV, battery, hydrogen, and diesel. I don't want to go too much into the details of every single case, but I just want to highlight here that in most cases we see very high diesel prices, and if the resorts are connected to the grid, the electricity prices are comparably high too, with an exception of Samoa, where we really see that the diesel price and the electricity price is comparably low compared to the other cases. And that's what we also saw in the results. So actually 3 out of the 4 cases, the cost optimal system that we simulated showed actually that hydrogen as seasonal storage would make sense to integrate into the system. And then having this combination of PV, battery, hydrogen, and with a diesel backup option is actually able to reduce the current cost between like 42 and 60%, so quite significant. This is due to the fact that electricity price and or diesel prices are very high. And then for the Samoa case, where the electricity price and diesel prices are low, hydrogen wouldn't make sense, but having slightly integrated some PV capacity would actually have some reduced cost, but that is comparably low to the other cases. So that was more like Pacific Islands tourism sector, only one like smaller systems, let's say. And then for the Philippines, we actually looked at entire islands. So we have, as you can see here, a way higher number of customers and also higher demands, of course. And we also have one case where we actually have quite high wind power potential compared to the other cases where we only had solar potential. And here we can also see that in most cases, the combination of PV, battery, and hydrogen with a diesel generator as backup made actually sense in the cost optimal system, and was actually we could achieve also huge reductions in the levelized cost of electricity compared to the current supply, which is for those cases based purely on diesel. And then for the third case, we saw where we have the wind power potential, that was actually surprising that we see that actually only wind and was taken and so no battery storage. So I think from these cases, we can really learn that or from these feasibility analysis that we conducted, we can actually see that hydrogen could also play an important role as seasonal storage in electricity provision, for example, on islands or remote areas where we have no connection to the national grid. And in most cases, this application of hydrogen was actually also economically feasible. So we could see that from the levelized cost of electricity, which went down compared to the business as usual case, so the current supply. In sensitivity analysis that we also conducted and also different scenarios that we looked into, we could also learn that the profitability of the application of hydrogen technology depends mainly on the diesel and or electricity prices, as well as on the trends of the overall prices and also the renewable energy potential. We also analyzed 100% renewable energy scenarios and comparing this to the business as usual case. And there we can actually see that for many of the analyzed cases, the 100% renewable energy scenarios are actually more cost competitive than the current diesel supply. So that is, I think, a very nice trend that we can observe more and more. And then usually the cost optimal system setup would include small amounts of diesel and or grid electricity while still achieving very high renewable energy shares. So that is it in a nutshell from the 2 feasibility studies we did for the 2 different regions or countries. And then I'm very happy to mention this project here also. It just started, let's say, but here we are actually looking into the implementation of such solutions, hydrogen as seasonal storage. So here we are actually planning to integrate hydrogen technology in an existing renewable energy hybrid mini-grid on an island in Thailand. And the current supply is actually PV and battery and diesel backup generator. And the aim is here to really go for 100% renewable, to like go away from the diesel generator and have hydrogen as a seasonal storage on the island. I can't share any insights yet because we just started, but I just wanted to mention that so you can stay tuned if you're interested in such kind of projects. And we will definitely share the results on our pages, web pages. And then maybe moving a bit from the general or very specific application case of hydrogen as a seasonal storage. So we also conducted on behalf of the H2UP GIZ Thailand team a market study on green hydrogen in Southeast Asia. Here I just want to give a glimpse because I have not a lot of time left, but at the end I'm also providing on my slide a QR code to the full study. So just as a brief overview, what did we actually do in this market analysis? So we actually looked at the different Southeast Asian countries and seeing like what kind of production products do they actually have at the moment, which kind of production products will they have in the future. We see on the left-hand side that most countries will actually have a certain green hydrogen production and also many of the countries will have a certain ammonia production and methanol, green methanol. On the right-hand side, you can see the different end-use sectors, let's say. So the color code is similar to the left one. So the blue graphs are for green hydrogen and the green graphs are for ammonia. And we can see here, so I think it's very hard to really glimpse into in a short time period, but I just wanted to highlight that for many of the countries in Southeast Asia, actually the refining sector is quite important. Also like transport sector and fertilizer production. So I think these are kind of the highlights for the entire region. And then I think we discussed this already briefly in our panel discussion, like how are actually the prices developing for hydrogen. And here we compared like 3 different studies that were looking into projections of hydrogen production costs in Southeast Asia. And the time frame was until 2030, and we can see here that it's for most of the countries between 2.1 and maybe up to 4 for $1 per kilogram. So these are the projections for, let's say, the near future. And we will see how prices will develop in reality. The one aim of the study was also to define the position and the roles of each of most of the countries in Southeast Asia. We didn't look at all countries. Conclusion, you can also check out the study at the end. Slides on the recommendations, so what we actually learned from implementing all the projects and also from looking at the market dynamics. There are a lot of recommendations, a lot of lessons learned, but I think I want to highlight one, which is prioritizing is key. So if you develop hydrogen strategies and also want to focus on specific sectors, it's usually very important to look at what is actually unavoidable, let's say. So I always refer to this very nice graph, which is called the hydrogen ladder. So you can see on the top side the areas and sectors that are really unavoidable for having like hydrogen in the future, like fertilizer, hydrogenation, hydrocracking. So this is kind of the refining sector. And you can also see in the color code where the sectors that are red, there's no real alternative than applying in the future green hydrogen to decarbonize the sectors. So I think this is very relevant while developing strategies to really see like what are unavoidable sectors and where to start, let's say. And I think a nice summary of this is to first of all start with the replacement of gray and blue hydrogen in the systems, whether being it industry or other sectors, then looking at additional demand from decarbonization and to see how we can actually decarbonize additional sectors like transport, power, and industry, and then go for the export, regional and global trade. So this was it in a run through, let's say. I'm very happy to answer any questions. And as promised, I'm sending you or providing you here also the QR codes for the studies that are already conducted, and also for the implementation project in Thailand. So we will share on our RLI website frequent updates on the project. And with that having said, I'm happy to give the floor back to Christine, and sorry for taking a bit more time.
Thank you, Katrin. That was really very much on time. So